Hey guys, so the rear suspension with the Hagon Shock was a lot easier to do, ran into a lot less issues than I did with the front suspension. We're going to start off with just removing these 12mm bolts that keep our seat in place, and then remove all these 8mm bolts that are holding our plastics down. On this right side, you're going to have to remove the back number plate first, and then there's one bolt hiding once you move that plate. Here's our electrical box. So we have two bolts back here that are hiding behind a couple of wires you'll have to pull out. This one on the left is a little bit trickier to get to. If you have an extender for either your socket wrench or drill, you'll definitely need that. Now once those are out, the electrical box just kind of opens up. We'll see later it's actually easier to get your shock out of there than it is through the bottom. So for the next bolts that we have to remove, I was hoping we wouldn't have to remove this rear brake, but we definitely do. So there's a little quick scrub of it. If you need a more detailed explanation of how to remove that brake, I have a video. I'll link it somewhere. Now here we're just going to remove that linkage arm, and we're also going to remove the triangle that it's attached to. Now you definitely don't have to remove that, but it's a good time to grease everything up and clean it out since you're already working on it. Make sure when you do grease this up, don't just put grease on the rods that are going in. It's a tight enough fit that by the time that rod does go through, you're not going to have much grease left on it on the other end. And make sure you get inside and grease the inside, not just the rod. Now the only thing left to take apart is that top bolt and shock. And once you get that free, it should just slide out of the bottom. We also had to take that linkage off because we are going to put the new Corona link on so we can get that extra inch of clearance on the bottom. You want to make sure you grease that up just like you did the other parts, and then remove the internal, that connecting rod from your old linkage, and that'll go in the Corona link before you can put your bolt in. From here, we're just going to button everything back up, throw your triangle back in there, and bolts through. Go ahead and get everything finger tight because as you adjust sag for that rear shock, it does have to go in and out a couple of times until you can get it dialed in. And it's pretty annoying to get everything nice and tight and then have to loosen everything back up. I used a speaker that I had laying around to raise that swing arm up. Make sure you have just some extra wood or something larger, like a large speaker on hand. That way you can adjust the swing arm up and down if you're doing this by yourself. I went ahead and used a Q-tip also just to grease everything down there where any bolts or bearings were going. Now for this Corona link, you will want the arrow pointing towards the word that you want. So the arrow is pointing towards high, if you can read it. It's giving me some extra height there. Now I'm not going to show a video on how to adjust your sag. There's 1,000 videos of that. But I did want to show real quick just the easiest way that I found to get that shock in and out. Remove the bottom bolt on your shock, just the shock again, not the triangle or linkage. And once you remove the top bolt from that shock, it can slide right out of the airbox like that. When you do go to adjust your sag, you have to make sure that you unscrew that little Allen bolt that stops the collar from moving around. And then you'll want to make sure that you put the guide rod that you used from the front forks through the bottom, and then something like a screwdriver up on top. And then step on that guide rod and hold the screwdriver up at the top while you do turn that collar. That'll just stop the top from spinning or the bottom from spinning, because there were a couple times where I go to spin the collar and the whole top piece of it would spin, and I have to go back and readjust because the bolt at the top and the bottom weren't lined up. And then once you adjusted for your sag, just put that shock right in through the airbox again. This little red dot is a rebound adjustment. Bruce recommends that goes on the right side of your bike for it to be easier to adjust. I found that if you have a long set of like T Allen keys or wrenches, if it's on the right side, you'll just need those small L Allen keys. I'll go ahead and add the torque specs down to the bottom of the video description, along with a link to Google Drive that just has like 3 or 4 manual pages that has pretty much every other torque spec that you would want. If you have any questions, comments, comment down below.